I just want to open up to questions and discussion.
At one point you said mail clippings, collecting mail clippings or newspaper clippings. Is it against the rules?
It's not against the rules. Clutter and things like that is against the rules. I think there is some small rules about either A, creating a fire hazard, or B, having too many materials about one thing. And I think that law, it's not a law, but this kind of subsection in their guidelines is really tailored to stalker types or people who have like obsessive compulsive disorders that might collect a bunch of images of a woman who is in a magazine or something. I think they're trying to ebb that behavior, but in the case of Hassan Alashi,
when he put like
he had news
11,
clippings and they took it
11
away.
pictures on the
That
wall.
clearly was them finding this nuanced piece of BOP code and trying to apply it to the.
They called it contraband.
Yeah.
Even though he got it from the
Yeah. I mean,
newspapers that they provided him.
I've been working on legal support for another whistleblower kind of transparency activist who's in jail in Illinois, and Kentucky, and they recently were charged with contraband violations and are in the shoe for what's called stolen clothing. Apparently that's because the tags on the pants he got from the laundry department did not have his register number on it. So they said, oh, he could have stolen this from another inmate. Like, we're talking about, like, this is, maybe the iron-on fell off because these numbers are ironed on. That's all it is. So at least that's how it was when I was there. It's like a white iron-on that goes on your pants. So the iron-on wasn't there, so he's now in the shoe over that. So it could show just how petty they could be if they wanted to. They could charge someone with having wine-making materials if they have more than one orange in their cell.
Yes, and they do that to Yasin's co-defendant.
Yeah, like, now, for example, someone like me, I'm a strict vegetarian. I tried to collect as much fruit as I could because I didn't know if our prison would go on lockdown during a fight, and I needed some things to eat. And sometimes they'd come through and they'd shake down the cells, and every single time they took my fruit away. And that's the only thing I had to really eat. The same thing if I had orange juice, which you're allowed to legally purchase through the commissary, but you're not allowed to have 4 of them or more. So if I bought them over several weeks, they would take them away. So it's a lot of petty.
You're making wine or what?
It wasn't making
so much
wine.
Fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
They let down Mohammed's
that-
whole unit because somebody had fruit and vegetables.
So that's how petty they could be. You know, I just wanted to say, one positive thing, and that is, and this does not necessarily apply to ADX, but I was scared most of the time I was in North Carolina. Not crippling fear, but it was always looking at my shadow. I started to develop a habit of looking at reflections in windows to see if someone was coming up behind me. I would always make sure I was not near poker games or things like that, because these were where the flashpoints were for fighting and, you know, knives and things like that. And I never really got hurt there, but just being in that tense atmosphere is almost like being in combat. And I remember when I arrived at the CMU in Marion, Illinois, Amin Hassoun, he said, you're going to go home soon to your wife, and you need to shed all this like the layers of an onion. He says you're shell-shocked, you're cagey, you don't really talk to people. I wasn't mean to anybody, but I was kind of like, I didn't trust anybody. I always thought someone had some sort of other ulterior motive. I came to learn that the men that were in the CMU, outside of like 1 or 2 individuals, right? Almost all of them that were there cared about me as a person. They cared about each other. And I started, before I left there, feeling that there was no threat whatsoever to me in any way. And the CMUs are a black eye on our Constitution, and they are a sad chapter in American history when it comes to racial and ethnic justice. It's very dark, but the one silver lining in this whole thing is if you have a loved one that's there They don't need to deal with the day in and day out of the people getting stabbed, people getting extorted, and things like that. I mean, at least from my own experience, it was much safer there. And the irony of it is that the newspaper articles and what's written about these individuals make it sound like you're in this kind of hornet's nest of terrorists, and it's not. It's people cooking for one another. It's people watching television together. It's people praying together. It's people talking about God together. It's people reading the Quran together. And I felt really safe, really welcome, and I had a newfound appreciation for Islam after leaving there. And so I feel, in a way, fortunate to have been able to experience that. I think it's very unfortunate the unit still exists, but there is a silver lining in it, and that is that if you have a family member who's there, just know they're a little bit safer there than at any other prison.
Do I need a microphone? Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment. My name is Muthanna Al-Hanuti. I'm from Michigan. I was incarcerated for 1 year in a federal prison in Milan, Michigan, between 2010 and 2011. And one of the things which caught my attention, though it was a low security, then they put me in some kind in the last 3 months in like a minimum security. I used to have my own. The services are terrible, and the worst thing was the food. It's extremely like. I mean, everybody was saying that it equals like pet's food. So the food was terrible, not only in terms of quality, even in terms of quantity. And all other service, like medical service was bad. Beds, you know, I spent the whole time in jail trying to fix my mattress. I used to put 2 buckets under the bed, so in order to, because the whole thing is broken. And no one, so all the service even is terrible. Even I'm talking about the best location in prison, which is between low and there was one building for so-called minimum security. So it's all bad. Just a quick comment. Okay. By the way, I was there for violations of U.S. economic sanctions in Iraq, because at that time I was working with a charity called Life for Relief and Development, and it happened to be now the largest American Muslim charity in America, in Michigan, and it's the only one which survived the closures, because we used to have up to 2003, 2004, we used to have about 7 major charities in our community as Arab and Muslims. And now we only left, only one survived, which is like, though it went through a big investigation. So 5 of us were charged with the violation of sanctions. Means that we sent some humanitarian work to Iraq, or we did some business in Iraq at the time of the sanctions without obtaining a license from the Treasury Department. Which is another story. I mean, we were in a constant touch with the OFAC office, and at least in one occasion, if not 2, we invited some of them to our office in Michigan, so we can explain to them, what we're doing with the help of Interaction, which is the biggest umbrella in Washington. So 3 of the members, they just fled the country, and myself and with another colleague, we went to prison. He got 3 years, and I was lucky I got 1 year. Okay? Just a short truth. Thank you.
I had a dilemma. I'm kind of confused. Hassan in Marion, Illinois, wants to have a contact visit with us, and this cannot happen unless he's moved to general pub and ultimately to a lower security jail. But at the same time, he tells me he is surrounded with about 20 Muslims. All of them are educated, political prisoners. One of them teaches tajweed, which is the art of reading Quran. So they all sit and he teaches, and the other one teaches explanation of the Quran, tafsir. Another one teaches Arabic language, standard Arabic language. And so each one of them is teaching a field of study. And he says, you know what, if I should come out one day, I'm not going to fear for unemployment. I'll be a sheikh. I'll be an imam, well-rounded, I'm halfway through or more, 22 juzus of 30 parts, 22 parts out of 30 parts of memorizing the Quran. So by the time I come out, if I come out, inshallah, hopefully, God willing, I'll be done with memorizing the Quran, I'll be done with all other fields of study, and I'll be an imam if I don't find any work. So in that regard, he's benefiting a lot. But at the same time, he wants to hug his children. He wants to sit with us and be able to speak without being listened to in Washington.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, listen to what?
And so it's a dilemma, I'm telling him, I would rather that you stay where you are for the time being, where I feel you are safe. Nida's father, if I may say this, he is very upset because of the lack of safety and security. They go to visit, sometimes they return because there's a lockdown, and then there's a killing every other week. So it's a confusing situation. We don't know, is he better where he is now, or is he better at a place where we can hug? And what do you think, my friend?
Well, as you know, my dad, Captivity, he got out of the CMU and he's actually in Wisconsin now. And I remember no matter, my mom had the same view, and no matter what, he would always say that anything is better than this, because it's where Nadab's dad is, it's bad, but where they are in the CMUs, it's worse because it's the psychology, the psychological torture that's constant on them. I think the most painful thing for a father is to not be able to see his kids, for us to cry on the other side, and for him.
Was torture.
That's what Yassine said too. Is he in Wisconsin? Does he feel like he's better off there?
And not all. It depends. Not everybody who gets out gets put into the worst. It's very rare. Where he's at right now, they call it cupcake prison in Oxford, Wisconsin.
Is it a low?
It's not. It's a medium.
Medium.
Yeah, but they're medium, and it's not all bad. And inshallah, I think no matter what, it's always the same opinion for everybody who leaves there, is that anything is better than the torture that they put on us psychologically.
To add to this, so when I got out, part of what got me in trouble is that I used to be really egotistical. I used to think I could win all these campaigns, and I used to win a lot of campaigns when I was a young activist. And so I thought, all right, I'm gonna shut down the CMU. So that was my exit goal. I'm gonna shut them down. And the first step was to speak to family members and figure out what they wanted, what people wanted. And I started hearing from more family members, especially family members who had loved ones in ADX, that they just want to get to the CMU where they could be with other Muslims, and that it's safer there, and that they don't want them in a high security setting. Or in the case of the Duca brothers, the family separated amidst several prisons. They'd rather all get them in one place, perhaps at the CMU together, to spend their time together. And so I started to realize that it was A, egotistical, and B, way too bold and presumptuous of me to think that this is something that necessarily is the best for everybody. And so I started putting together this case study project and a report that would be submitted to Congress in the hopes, and I don't want to get anyone hopes up about this, but in the hopes of trying to trigger a Senate subcommittee hearing about these institutions and about reviewing some cases that happened post 9/11. And I realized that if this was to be successful, we should have a set of asks that are kind of outlandish and beyond the scope of what the federal government would actually provide us. But we push so hard on those that when we get nothing in return, but they're eager to try and meet us somewhere else, that we have a secondary group of asks. And so as I started developing secondary groups of asks, the one thing that I thought about, because the secondary groups of asks are the ones that might actually happen, not the first set, because the first set is too lofty. The secondary group of asks would be to knock down a wall at both Terre Haute and Marion to create some sort of living room space where, yes, you can monitor all the communications in and out, you know, letters, email, etc., but the contact visitation returns with the families. And I even spec it out price-wise. This is how much it's going to cost, how many extra staff it would require to monitor the communications of a family visit in a visiting room type situation, and provide amenities for the kids so it actually feels like someone's going to a living room to meet with their loved one for a couple of hours and give them an actual family experience. And so that was the secondary ask. It does nothing to alleviate the unconstitutional nature of the CMUs, and it's kind of sad that like this set of secondary asks is something that I recognize like I'm not getting anything legally that challenges the Constitution or the constitutionality of it and doesn't hold these individuals accountable. When I think about the architect of the CMU, Harley Lappin, I think about what he's doing now. He's building family detention centers in Texas that house women and their children as they cross the border trying to come to the United States for a better tomorrow. This is how this guy makes his money. So, mind you, he lost his job at the BOP for repeat DUI offenses. The Federal Bureau of Prisons wouldn't keep him at his job anymore because he's constantly drunk driving. His name is Harley Lappin. He was one of the architects of the CMUs many years ago, and I believe he introduced it first in 2004. He called it the Counterterrorism Unit. Congress shut that down. Then he in I believe it was 2006, decided to open the, or 2007, decided to open the first CMU, but he did so by bypassing the Administrative Procedures Act. He did not go to Congress. Instead, what he did is he kind of shuffled around the BOP's money and took both Terre Haute and Marion and decreased their custody classification level as a prison from high security prisons to medium. That allowed him to fire a certain percentage of the staff there. But they were still listed, and this is the interesting part, when you file with the federal government as a USP, you get a certain budget because it's considered maximum. So they lowered it to a medium security facility, and there was only a couple things they had to do. They had to take away live ammunition from the gun turrets. That was pretty much about it, to make sure that there was no live rounds fired, and they decommissioned the gun turrets. And that turned it from a high security down to medium security prison. He then fired a certain amount of staff, and of that revenue that would have otherwise been given to that staff, it now got shifted into building these new units. And so essentially it was him shuffling the money around to get what he wanted anyway by building these units, and then eventually he got caught. It is now going through some sort of administrative review, and that's why they had the comment period, I believe, in April.
Well, that was after the lawsuit was filed.
Yeah, well after the lawsuit. But at this point, he's not even working there anymore. So now it's somebody else's problem. I don't want you to think that I think if I proceed with this project and I start going after Congress on this pretty tenaciously, I'd like to stay in communication with every single one of you guys, so that way it's not me acting unilaterally, it's me actually communicating what the folks want. And so we periodically over the next year or so, we should all stay in touch and figure out, what our ultimate goal is, and then what lesser things we could possibly take away from the table if they offer us some sort of concessions that would benefit your families. And so I think you brought up a tremendous point. If someone doesn't want to leave the CMU because they might go to a high security prison, then maybe just creating a space where someone can visit with their kids, or maybe increase the number of visits with their kids, or any one of those variables.
We get 15 minutes a week,
Yeah.
and we divide it between the family members. It's terrible.
Yeah, more phone calls than the visit. Yes.
I have a question. My husband, he isn't in prison here in America. He's in prison in Yemen. However, it's been almost 5 years now. For the first 4 years, he was in a prison where he could sit with his family. There was family contact. It was nice. Where now we're not sure where he is, but we feel, well, we don't know exactly. We don't know for a fact where he is, but we feel sure that he's on a military camp, in a military camp, and now he can't call or he can't have basically any contact with us. However, the State Department or a counselor from the embassy, he sometimes goes to see him, and the last time he went to see him, he let him use the phone for like 5 minutes, but during that conversation he said that they were going to try to get him back into the other prison. So I know that this isn't like an American prison, but at the same time the embassy and the State Department, they're involved and they have influence on possibly getting him back into the other prison. So is there any way that if you or anyone speaks to, I don't know, Congress here or anybody who would have some type of influence within the State Department, or that they could push harder in getting him back to the other prison?
Maybe we could have a campaign to try to call the State Department to get them to do more.
Yeah, because I definitely believe they could help me better, but
yeah, they could.
Because they don't have a lot of people pushing them, it's kind of like just me. And then even recently they told me that they weren't going to communicate with me anymore by phone, that they will only contact me through email, things like that. So they're starting to push away. I do sometimes articles in like The Guardian and different articles, so when they read those things, I guess they, get upset.
Has he not had a trial?
No, he's not sentenced or anything. He's going through trial, but they never, he was never found guilty. The only trial that he...
through trial
In Yemen, yeah. The only trial that he actually the only trial that he actually completed was a charge that they had on him for terrorism, and they threw the trial out. They dropped all the charges. So now he's on trial for murder of a guard. Well, not just a guard. He's like a part of the secret police there. So now he's on trial for that, but the trial never really completes because there's so much turmoil there. There's a civil war there now. It's always something going on. But then also for a period of time when they were having consistent trial dates and it seemed like something could progress, they stopped bringing them. They stopped bringing them to the court hearing altogether. And the judge himself had to file an investigation as to why he's not being brought. But someone from the embassy attends his court hearing, so they have influence, and I do believe that they can do something, but I just don't know how to push them to do something.
Maybe, do you want to work with us on that more? Because I know you've been involved
Oh, yeah,
in this
we're involved
case
in-
too. Maybe we can do a campaign around that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And to give you a little bit more background on how this case first evolved. His name is Sharif Mobley. So those of you who are in our email network, you've read at least one piece that I've sent out recently on Sharif Mobley. We just, not long ago, we had 3 weeks ago or so, we had a vigil outside the embassy, the Yemen embassy, to begin putting pressure on them concerning Sharif. But Sharif and his family, they went to Yemen. Was it 2010, 2009?
2008.
2008, they went to Yemen. In 2010, he fell under suspicion after attempting to get a birth certificate, was it?
Right.
They had a child born, and they wanted to make sure that he had his protected American rights, as both of them are American-born U.S. citizens, the parents. So anyway, after that, after his visit to the embassy, he tried to get documentation for his newborn child. He fell under suspicion because of all the stuff going on in Yemen. And one day he was sitting in front of a cafe, near where they live, one morning, and all of a sudden this vehicle pulls up with a bunch of men in it. They jump out, they snatch him up. There's a struggle. In the course of the struggle of him trying to resist being taken away, he basically, it was a rendition. Him being taken away, they shot him in the leg. All right. So he ends up having to be hospitalized, getting medical treatment. Meanwhile, he's under an enormous amount of pressure as they attempted to get him to confess to being XYZ or to having relationships with XYZ. They threatened his family that they would do, horrible things to his wife, as well as to him. And they did things to him. They did things to him while he was in custody. And at one point, according to the official narrative, he attempts to escape, which is his right to do as far as I'm concerned. He attempts to escape. In the course of the escape attempt, a guard, a security officer was killed at the hospital. And so they came to a realization that the suspicion that he initially came under of having ties to terrorists was bogus. Those charges were dropped, but now this new charge of murder of this security person in an attempt to escape is what is over his head. Meanwhile, the State Department, and I really believe with all my heart, that rendition that took place with either by the orders of U.S. government personnel or with a wink and a nod from them.
Yeah, and they've done this other times.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we know for a fact that was the case because it was, my husband doesn't speak any Arabic, he does now, but back then he didn't speak any Arabic. And his whole interrogation was done in English because it was two officials from the FBI that were there interrogating him. So, what is the FBI doing in Yemen if they don't have some, say so from the State Department or government or whoever, And then also, we did a FOIA, we sued for the FOIA document, and they got the papers back, and it was like a lot of blackouts, but they was basically admitting that they were involved in his kidnapping and his interrogation and all those things. So when he kind of disappeared this year within the system, it was right before they were going to tell our side of the story. The defense was going to tell our side of the story, which involves America. So and then he disappeared. Yeah.
Well, we
So
can
yes.
talk about.
Okay.
I can help you with, I've been working with a FOIA attorney that's really good at trying to reverse some of that black ink that you see. So they sue and they actually clear up a lot of that and they get additional documents, etc. So a lot of the times in the first pass they black out as much as they possibly can, and some of it is well beyond the permissible amount. So maybe
We filed a second one.
we did it.
Yeah, we found a way to file a second FOIA. So hopefully this one doesn't have as many blackouts.
I'll give you my card and
But then if
Get in
you
touch
can,
with me.
you can, if you do the appeal process, then you can actually go to court and sue over trying to get more of it on your document.
Okay.
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But they're definitely in contact with him, even though they're not telling us where he is. They let him use the phone. I hear him in the background. They gave me their email address. Oh, if you want to get the kids' passports, email me. So I know that they meet him and they're in contact with him. So if at least for just immediate immediate relief, if he could get moved to back to that other prison, that would be good.
Yeah.
It's the first thing.
I feel pathetic sometimes, when we sit and talk about if they just move him to a lower, he shouldn't be in prison in the first place. We start thinking if they just move him to a lower, like in my case, if they just move him in a place where I can sit next to him, he shouldn't be there in the first place. So how can we do this and get them out,
City, you want to say
Well,
something?
that's it.
So,
My brother, recently, he's in Otisville right now. So this brother, he came to this prison, and this brother actually attending mosque in 96 Mosque in New York. And my uncle know him very well because he is a customer over there. And my dad knows him too. So he was an informant. And people think that he is because the way he was American and then he converted to Islam. That's what he said. And then he moved to this Otisville all of a sudden. Where's my brother right now? I don't know what charges he is in there for. So he right away came to, he started talking with my brother, you know. My brother didn't know him. And he said that I know your uncle very well, I know your father very well, and I know your cousin very well. So my brother didn't like speak to him or anything, he ignored that. And he right away called my mom. And my brother habit is that he tells everything to my mom, right? So he called. He said, this brother came, he's talking about my uncle, he's talking about my cousins, who is he? So my mom said, don't talk with him. Let me come to you first. I will listen to you and we will talk about it. So my mom called my uncle and my father knows this brother very well. So my father, he said, yeah, I know him. He's not a good brother. I think he isn't the way he talks with people, you know, in my gym and stuff. So then my mom talked with my uncle about it, and he said the same thing. And then he started talking about, again, he came to my brother and he said that, your cousin have a website, these books, he's reading it online. How he knows about that? Right? So my brother, he didn't say a word to him. And then my mom visited and he told my brother told her everything. Then my mom, and that day, like, all of a sudden, he has a visit, that brother, and the wife came to visit him, and he sit with us where we were sitting. On purpose, he came and sit like front of us with the wife. So my brother said, this is the brother who you know just came to Otisville. So the way he's talking with the wife, we were observing him, how he acts with the wife. He's very rude to her. The sister started crying. She was from Egypt. And I know that sister because I was in Brooklyn. She visited our store many times. So I said, I know you. You look familiar. She said, yeah, I live in Bay Ridge, you know. So I said, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden when the visit was over, he went back, my brother went back. He stopped like talking with my brother. He got scared of my brother. So when my brother passed by, he ran from there. I don't know what's going on. Is he an informant who wants to entrap my brother in this? But my brother doesn't even talk with him. And my brother told other brothers not to talk with this brother because he doesn't seem like he's a good, you know, maybe he's an informant. So this incident happens. Now he talked like bad about my brother to other inmates in jail. He doesn't even know my brother very well.
And then the officer called this guy and said, you will not go in this blood. I mean, and change the...
Now he's not with Muslim brothers anymore because all the Muslim brothers, they like in a one cell, they're together. So they put him in another unit.
Your brother or the other?
No, the other brother, the informant to the other unit.
So
But now he's scared to talk with my brother.
Because
He
your
knows that
brother's
my-
saying he's an informant, which he may be.
My
or he
mother
may-
warned my brother not to talk with him at all.
I talk on the phone
Yeah,
because they
he
listen
uses
everything.
yeah.
I say he's an informant, I know him
No,
well.
it's a brother
And I
who
ask too many
like
people.
just came to
Your
Otisville.
father,
They
your
transferred
uncle
him.
is in
Your brother.
because he's
Another
in the
brother.
mosque and he's talking
No, my brother.
about these
Another
things.
There's another
stop.
brother who came to Otisville. He
Because
knows
I
my
know
uncle.
my son is talking to you. And I know my son is very vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how we
And
got the trap.
he trusts everyone.
No. My brother didn't got entrapped. He wants to entrap my brother or something.
I see. Is this going on now?
No, it's over.
Too many things we saw outside
talking
the
about
mosque and
your
in
brother
96 mosque.
Who's
And
out?
people
He's not out.
throw
He's inside.
from the
Okay, so
mosque.
you're talking about your brother who
And
is
he is a
injured.
white
Yeah.
guy.
And
with
this
a
happened
beard,
before you
brown
went to
beard,
No,
brown hair.
this happened right now inside the jail.
No.
They sent
tough.
informants
And
inside
they
the
listen
jail to
everything,
entrap my brother.
mother and son talk like that, they know.
It wasn't
I think-
you, no?
I think the best advice is just to be really polite,
Yeah.
not nudge anything along, but don't talk to him about anything.
That's what my brother
Because-
is doing.
Yeah, just
Not
because
talking.
if you start sharing with other people, if you create discord that someone is an informant, and let's say someone gets hurt, like let's say somebody else hurts this guy, that can come back on your brother, it can come back on your son. If you make them feel threatened, they might, and they are an informant, they might go to the senior staff there saying that your son is threatening this informant, and then there'll be reprimands that way. The best thing to do is to always keep it in the back of your head that they probably are one. Never open up to them, never talk to them, just be polite and keep it moving.
And in Otisville, like a lot of time, the officer came to my brother and they keep saying like, "What kind of Muslim are you?" I don't know why they're asking this question. So my brother, one of the officers is very nice to him, so he told what happened in his case, told him everything. There was a woman. She started to cry about it, but he said the whole story. And then another officer called him and keep asking him, "What kind of Muslim are you?" These kind of little
What does he
things
mean?
like, I don't know.
Is he Salafi? Is he this? Is he
Because
that?
they're
Or-
different
What
ways.
kind?
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what she mean, but we always asking this question. Always.
And 1 week before Ramadan, my brother, he was not in his cell. He was outside his cell. And one officer came inside his cell and started throwing like the Quran on the floor and many other books on the shoes and actually destroyed the whole Quran. My brother was outside. And when they're outside, there is no right for an officer to go in their cell while they're outside. So my brother came to his cell and he asked the officer, "Why are you in my cell and why are you throwing my stuff around?" He said, "I saw your hand in your pocket, that's why I did that." I said, my brother said, "First of all, you have to come direct to me and then search me what's in my pocket. Why you went to my room?" So my brother did this. He locked his cell door and he doesn't let the officer go outside and says, "Now call your friends." My brother told him, "Call your friends now and tell them to come." He wants to show him everything that they throw on the floor first. So after 2 hours, the other officers start to come in. And the other officer who was inside the cell with my brother, he started to cry. He got scared, you know. So when those officers came to inside the cell, they saw everything thrown on the floor. The Quran is totally destroyed. My brother wrote some kind of So my brother, that day called my mom crying on the phone. He told me my Quran. And my brother said, "Don't say a word to me, just listen to me. I want them to hear me what I'm saying." So it's like kind of a proof. So then my brother just hang up the phone. And the second day, when we visited him one time, he said they transferred this officer somewhere else because whatever they did was wrong.
So they realized that, and your brother didn't get in trouble for that?
No. We got scared, like maybe they would put him in shoe, and he told my mom, "I don't know what's gonna happen to me, but I'm gonna let you know. Whatever happens to me, don't. You know, I want you guys to be okay. I don't know what they're gonna do." So I told my mom, if he calls, he's not in trouble, so don't worry about it. When we told our lawyer about this incident, he said that these things happen. So he has to write, leaving or whatever.
Yeah, but it's good that they transferred that to your officer.
And then they pay the money that for the Quran. They pay for the stuff that they throw on the floor, damage.
This is amazing.
So my brother kept that proof. He told my mom, "Oh, they give me money for the Quran, so I'm gonna keep it as a proof. I don't need that money for the Quran." And one diary that they, tear apart, they give money for that. So this is like a proof of what they did to me.
And also on the phone, I said, please don't do anything because I'm scared. Being a young boy, maybe emotional, the Quran is very important thing in our life. And I know my son. Don't say anything to officer, don't fight. I give another Quran to you, good Quran. Stop, mommy, stop. Listen to me, don't say any word. I say you listen because I know they listen to me because these people doing these things on me, and then he tells every single word which happened. And also he's saying 150 to 200 Muslims there, and they all stand there. And some Muslims are, is angry now, and angry. It's Quran. Some people saying like that, and some people I don't know what, but he's saying all the story. And then I said, no, don't say anything. And then he says, I don't want Quran money. And after all this, then he sent me. But when he wrote a letter, I said, it's very little money. I give good Quran to you. He said, no, mommy, you don't understand. You like me. You born like you, because I cannot understand the people, and you also don't understand me. But I learned here too many things. I'm grown up. And then he's saying that things, and then I'm crying also. And then I go to visit, and I say, calm down, everything you do, but lightly. Don't be fight, don't be anger like that, because this officer doing very bad things to me, and if they're doing something this, I'm bad.
And sometimes they might have done that to try to provoke him to fight or something.
Yes.
But it sounds like it worked out well, that incident.
But my son controlled that time. He doing nothing wrong. He up and down, he's thinking. And don't touch to my room, no anyone, Muslim. Stop Muslims. Don't do these things. I handle. And then he handled like that.
He loved the officer.
Yeah,
This is, I can't understand how he didn't get in trouble for that.
I know.
Because they know, like my brother, they called him very tough. My brother is very tough with them. He means business when it comes to this kind of problem.
Well, I wouldn't
They
recommend
know my
other
brother
people
very
to-
well. That he's not gonna stop talking. He will talk with them. He went to all the officers, say his story to all of them. Everybody knows about what happened that day.
And also saying on the phone, Mommy, go and tell the CCR, tell the, I don't know, public officer. They destroy my Quran. It's not right. And he crying on the phone because he hurt inside.
My brother never cried.
Never cried.
Scared and stuff like that. He doesn't know, like, he's young. He was young when he went there. Even when he transferred from MPC to the Terrebonne, Indiana, he was sick. The moment he went there, he got really scared. He said, they put me with terrorists.
There are Muslim people, the big beard.
He called my mom and he said that I'm scared. I'm very scared.
I know, yes, he knew there.
I cannot sit
But
here.
but then he realized, no, they're not, because when he was in MDC, he was in high security.
Yeah.
He never, see this kind of people before. So, but the brothers over there, they're very nice, very lovely. They take care of him because he was young. They keep him in circles,
They
so
saved
nobody
my
come
son.
inside the circle and brainwash him. You know?
He's saying, my son saying this, the CMU is a Guantanamo. Mental torture, they do mental torture is too much. But, and I am changed. I'm not in my room, but the brothers inside the CMU, they save me. Every time they say, son, you get this book, you do a GED, brother, you sit and pray and dua and like that things, and slowly he is complete in mind. And then when he come here, he's saying, I don't want to live here, I want Arvind to go to see.
He doesn't like the medium security, he likes to be there.
You
He
know,
says the brother,
Because of the brother love, you know, the way they treated
That's
him
what we're
there.
talking about.
It's more discriminatory in this, Otisville. Because he's the only one with this case, no one else is with the same case or, like that.
And the interesting thing about, for those of you who are not familiar with this case, the interesting thing about Shahawar Latif Siraj is that when this case of his first began, he very young,
very young.
20, how old was he?
19 years
19
old.
years old. I remember, I mean, I was around in the courts during that time. I was at some of his court hearings. And I remember studying the case very closely because it was one of the early cases of entrapment. And subhanAllah, he was this big young teddy bear, like
Teddy bear.
very soft sheltered, the only son, the only brother, and very sheltered, very sheltered. And he was someone, because of his personality, that could be easily manipulated by that provocateur. Now, he's become a much stronger young man. He's a very strong, fortified young man, and he's a reminder of something that Frederick Douglass said. Frederick Douglass,
No, he was.
the freedom fighter of another age, he said, a man, and of course this equally applies to a woman, is worked on by what he works on. He may carve out his circumstances, but his circumstances will carve him out as well. And when a young brother like Siraj, he gets engulfed in something like this, either one of two things happens. Either he's completely broken, and it's really tragic to see. It's really tragic to see an imprisoned man, young or old, who has been completely broken. It's really a tragic thing to see that within the prison system, because I mean he is used by the guards, he's used by the inmates, etc. But alhamdulillah, this young brother, he came under the protective wing of some of the older brothers, and at the same time, he became more fortified in his faith. He's become a stronger Muslim. And as a result of all of this, I mean, he is a very different young man than he was when this first happened to him. I mean,
One of the brothers, he's from Pakistan. He told her, my mom talked with the wife, on the phone. He said, your son is very, his heart is very big. He gives and gives. But the thing is, when someone pokes him, he's nobody. He gets very angry, and nobody goes nobody come to him and he's very angry.
he's much stronger.
Yeah.
Before
One
he,
like his
before
mom.
So
he
he
got,
said,
before,
don't poke him. He said, don't poke me when I'm not doing anything wrong. Don't poke me. When you poke me, then you have to, then you have to deal with me then.
when I go to visit and I give the form, the officer inside, they say, they're talking to each other, say, the tough fight. One day I hear, and then I'm scared. And I'm outside, I'm going to say, nothing. The officer saying, you're tough there, what do you mean? What do you mean? I like that. And they say, no, mommy, if we are not like that, doing like that, and he's saying, before when I'm coming in prison, first time I don't know about religion, only basic things. And now I know how to read Quran, I know all tafsir. In 10 years he memorized too much Quran. And he's saying, Mama, in this surah this is like, this is like, and he's coming out. And he's thinking it's going positive. He's saying that.
I want to give you guys advice. Okay, so Sharif, he's there in Yemen. Now, of course, we want him to ultimately be free, but we are kind of, we are unsure if we want him to come back here or not. Because of, like, you know, these brothers, you know, they get entrapped or the government has whatever against them and they put them in prison here. And I do feel like the prisons here are harsher than they are there, only because, I don't know, the environment is different there because everyone's Muslim. And so like for Ramadan, he's not going to find himself in solitary confinement. He's going to find himself eating iftar with the guards. And so, you know, it is better in a sense there. So we're scared for him to come back here. What do you think? Do you think that it's better if, or and is it even possible, like is it even possible that he could stay where he is if he were to be free?
I don't know, that's.
So my brother is Ahmed Abu Ali. He was detained in Saudi for 2 years without charges. And what we did is we filed a lawsuit in DC to have him brought back because he was born and raised here. Ultimately, what happened is, the government found themselves in a situation where, he had been detained for so long without charges. They didn't know what to do about it. They were like facing, they were under the spotlight. They decided to bring him back, and they filed charges, and pretty much there was no evidence except for a confession that they had obtained in Saudi prison, and based on that, he was under torture. So he was tortured in Saudi prison, and although they had that confession tape from the very beginning of his detention, it was never used until they had to bring him back, and he was sentenced initially to 30 years and then to life in prison. A lot of people, I was just talking to Leila actually, how a lot of people, in our community criticized us for filing a lawsuit to bring him back. But at the time it was, right after 9/11, it was one of the first rendition cases. And, you really don't know. You really don't know what the government's going to do. We had no idea that they were going to file charges because in public statements that the government had made, they said, we have no further interest in Mr. Ali, or we have, we have no reason pretty much to keep him in detention. I think it's really, it's a matter of fate, and it just like you have to consult your attorneys and talk to different people, because the situation in the Middle East is pretty crazy right now, and you don't know what will happen. We made the best decision we could at the time, knowing that if he stayed in Saudi, at the time he was being threatened of being sent to Guantanamo. He was being threatened of having a hearing in Saudi court, and then being like executed in in the Saudi court system or whatever. And so we made the best decision we could at the time, hoping that we could bring him here and he would be free, or at least be under supervision. But we had no idea that he would be convicted and then sentenced to life. So it's really a tricky situation, and I can't tell you to do one thing or the other, but obviously there is a big possibility that if he is brought here, they will charge him and imprison him. But again, I don't know what the politics are in Yemen and what the possibility of him being released are. So in some ways, I think people who are detained overseas may face harsher conditions, in the sense that they may be tortured or whatnot, but a lot of them are ultimately released. But sometimes, I'm sure you hear about people who disappear, and as you mentioned, that you no longer have the ability to talk to him. So you have to just weigh different things and consult your attorneys. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would be really wary of trying to get him back here unless you had some kind of assurance that he wasn't going to be charged here, which
I doubt they would give you that, so.
But is there any way to, is there like a process that you may know of, or you may know of someone who knows better of like, of the process that you go through to have them be able to stay there? Like if he were to be free, like what do we do to get him to stay there legally?
You have to get asylum.
Yeah. From Yemen, you would stay in Yemen? Yeah. So I have no idea what, it would be up to the policies of Yemen, right? I don't know.
You know something, Kathy? It's interesting. In Sharif's case, my own gut feeling, I mean, my preference, if he was my loved one, would be to fight to get him back to the States. That would be my preference. To fight to get him back to the States. First of all, the government of Yemen has already admitted that the basis for which he was originally imprisoned, was a wrongful basis.
That wouldn't necessarily stop the U.S.
Yeah.
But the other issue, however, is that the crime, quote unquote, that he is over his head now, the crime that he committed, which is, I mean, a truly debatable offense, given all the circumstances. I mean, he was renditioned, he was wrongfully imprisoned, he was imprisoned under wrongful circumstances, he was abused, there was threatened abuse of his family, and he did what he did, attempting to get to escape. I mean, that was his right under, from what I understand, to be well-established international law. I mean, that was his right. But even if that is not that's not recognized as having been his right to do what he did with someone losing their life in the process. That crime took place not in America.
No, I know, they probably couldn't charge him for that, although they might be trying. Yeah,
No,
yeah, they'll
they
make
couldn't.
something.
So, I mean, really, if he was my loved one, I would be fighting to get him back here to the States.
But is
In
there
the
no
case-
way they would charge him material?
I mean, post 9/11, they can charge anything. They can do
They could
anything.
bring him back and they may not have any.
Right, but that would be another fight for another day. And that's a fight that I would be willing to engage in if it were my loved one. That's a fight I would be willing to engage in, but I would want him back in America. In the case of the young brothers, the 5 young brothers that are in prison, American citizens that are in prison in Pakistan, in that case, I said to their parents, I'm glad that they're in Pakistan instead of being here. Well, they're still in prison in Pakistan, but and their parents, they visit them every few months. The imprisonment conditions are much better for them there than they would be here.
And the sentence will probably be shorter, the time.
Probably. And so, I mean, my advice to the family would be to let them remain in Pakistan and to make a life over there in Pakistan, not to come back to the States no time soon. But in Sharif's case, I don't know. In Sharif's case, I feel just the opposite.
Because I feel like if he actually were to go through this trial and he was found guilty, now it's 50-50. Either he has to pay blood money, which they feel like he's an American, so he's rich. That's how they feel,
Right.
So they can get like a wide load of money from him, or he faces execution. It's one or the other. But I feel like if they we're hoping that the American thing sticks in their head and that they want money, and then if he gives, and we're prepared to do whatever to give him to get them the money. Then if they have the money, I kind of feel like, okay, we're finished with them. Like it's nothing else left in their hearts for them. He already went through a trial of terrorism that they dropped, so the government isn't interested in him in that way. And then like on the civil side, with just dealing with people, they feel satisfied because they got money from him. And then I just feel like he could just continue to live on there. And of course, I would, you know, prepare to take my stuff back there too.
I understand, yeah.
You know,
If they would be willing to give him political asylum, and if the U.S. government would be willing to leave well enough alone and not put pressure on the Yemeni government to do something else.
See, but I think, sorry, I know.
It's okay.
I think that initially when this whole thing started, they were trying to get him deported. They were trying to get him deported back home so that they could imprison him here. But what they were trying to do was to get me to say something, and because their whole thing with me is we're trying to help you and we're trying to figure out why did the Yemenis take him. So if you just let us know, well, I mean, did he ever speak bad about 9/11, or did he ever have any type, or were you ever suspicious of him that he was like radicalized or something? And then if you tell us that, then we could go back to the Yemenis and say, oh, okay, we got it. Just give them to us and we'll take care of it. And they were making it seem like to me, we'll fix everything and we'll bring him back home. But I knew that bring him back home meant to a prison. So I didn't fall for it, and alhamdulillah, he obviously didn't either. They don't have anything that we said or anything like that. So then it just happened to be this whole escape thing and now murder charges. But I don't know, I feel like we should stay there.
My friend here has something.
Oh yeah, you can
So,
try this.
I'm very nervous about, I don't want to speak in any details. I don't want you to give me any details either. So, but do you suppose, or do you believe that the U.S. government feels he's part of a group?
No. And no.
Do you think they'll make an allegation that he's part of a group?
No, initially, that was the whole reason why he was kidnapped. They felt like he had ties with our people, or that he knew where our people was. But they since then, and we saw it through a WikiLeaks, there was an email correspondence between officials. They since then said openly, he's a nobody, they said in the email, he's a nobody. Just let him deal with this murder case over there, they'll kill him. And then that'll be the end of it. But they know that he, I feel like, you know, I feel like they know that he's not a part of it. However, I mean, their families weren't either, but it's more just the fact that.
And this part's not legal advice, because I'm not an attorney, but that first conversation that you had with those State Department individuals or whoever it was about radicalization or what might their reasoning be, like you should assume that whatever was in their head at that moment when they were talking to you, they had already developed an idea about your husband.
Right.
And what they wanted to do is they just wanted to get you on record to qualify their idea about your husband.
Right.
So a lot of this is packaged as we're trying to help you. You know, and I've heard it time and time again, like we're just trying to help you get you out of this situation. This will all be cleared up tomorrow, and next thing you know, you're arrested.
Right.
Yeah,
And I was only 21 at the time when this was going on, but I sensed that immediately, and I didn't fall for it, and because I was there too. You know, anything could have happened to me as well, but I tried to stay on point with knowledge that I have of their tricks and things like that. And I was able to make it back home, and he was able to go be free from terrorist charges. So I think we both kind of used a little bit of which we had and maybe got out of that situation.
Is he facing capital punishment in Yemen?
Yeah. If he's found guilty, it's a public execution. Or it's up to the family, and their law is up to the family. The family can decide if they want blood money, they call it, or if they want execution. That's not to the judge or the legal system, that's up to the family. For a long time, the brother was the main family member that was involved, and he was kind of like Americanized a little bit. It seemed like he was going more so for the money. But now all of a sudden the wife is like really a part of the whole thing, and she's kind of more so pushing for it.
All right. I want to sit with the sister actually and talk to her about this.
Yeah. So we can continue on, carry on with lunch if you want, and sister, I so appreciate it. I know it's your first conference here, so it's really good to get some background on what's been going on. I think I also want to hear from you too, but we're kind of running up on time. And we also have a couple of announcements.
question. This is general for everyone's safety about when people make comments on social media. What? Because I've seen some people get scared and say, "No, there's no right if they comment to another comment." What should our limit should be to using words or mind saying? What is our prison here? Being a Muslim and commenting on a social media where everybody else is really commenting with their names, not Muslim name, but I've been told by my son, watch out mom, don't post it, don't write that. So
That's a long conversation, and we definitely want to sit down with you. We've had this conversation collectively in the last conference where we talked about media, and there's a video on it, right? That the coalition took. They recorded the whole conversation, so that would be a great for you to watch. And I think just be in touch with Charmaine, because there's all kinds of information on languaging and how to tell our story. It's actually an ongoing conversation we've been having since the first conference.
I try to watch out much, but also being liking a group or, that's also, I heard some people are posting, taking a report on some or being a part of group.
Well, we should always assume that everything on social media is being watched. Assume, yeah.
It's being watched, but you shouldn't feel like you can't say anything.
Right.
But you have to be a little bit careful.
In a nutshell, you should never feel like your religious expression or who you are as a person should ever be censored, but be mindful that whatever you post there could be read by a law enforcement official. And so if you're posting something that, for example, is not criminal, but like, I sympathize with these things happening because these people have a right to be angry. I'm speaking in very general terms, right? Like maybe it's a specific incident, Gaza, whatever. That's where the double standard comes in. If you're a 19-year-old Muslim or Muslim convert, specifically male, posting about your sympathy for individuals in Gaza, or if you're a white anarchist posting, that's where all of a sudden it becomes different. Oh, well, it's okay because they're actually not a jihadist. They're not, they're not, so.
They never watch other sides, like give the side like religion or what about anything. No one that could represent all the
That's why we feel like it's more on Islam.
I do watch out a lot and try to be very politically, but I want more people to get involved and engaged and
We want to go ahead and wrap up and carry this. It's a long conversation. We're not going to be able to have it today, and we've been having it for a while actually. So I just said first watch that whole that filming that we did from the last conference on the media, and then that's going to get you on a started like a launching pad. Okay, so before we transition, there's a couple of things, and we're going to fold off first by. Okay, shake it off. Shake up everything. Shake up your hands. Shake up your feet. Take a deep breath in. Inhale. And exhale. Okay, so as we close off, we've been together we've known each other, many of us known each other for many months now, and we've spent the past 48, 70 something hours together. I want to hear from you one by one. What has been your highlight this weekend? Okay? Just a bunch of them, you understand?
Your highlight.
Highlight. Yeah.
What did you enjoy the most this weekend?
The first workshop was really interesting. I learned a lot about, so the first workshop was
great.
I like all because I learn too much and I listen too much. I think when I'm going home, I'm thinking and I make something I do about I like everything.
I just enjoy learning more information and seeing everybody again.
Probably last night, the sharing the Imam and Dr. Sami and everybody that shared last night. That was probably.
Mine was actually meeting other families who are in the same boat as me. I read you guys' stories all the time, but to actually see your faces, it means a lot.
So I agree with both Kathy and my sister about like the sharing of the stories and the frustrations last night, and then also meeting everybody and actually like hearing everything that everybody has to say. So I know I didn't talk much to get like microphone time, but overall I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
I entered last night. Family members conversation that we rather send me earlier to the conversation to the
I feel like we all got closer in this conference more than any of the other ones before. It was really incredible. Like I got to know each person in the church.
So it's not one specific session, but I feel that I'm sure a lot of you relate in that a lot of this work is really draining as a family member, and sometimes you just have to like withdraw, and you don't answer any like phone calls and you don't answer any emails, and you're like, I need to recharge. And so I feel that every time I come here, as emotional as it is and as much as I feel hurt to see everyone else's pain and suffering. At the same time, I get totally pumped, and I definitely feel recharged and ready to do more work and to recommit myself to this fight. And it's not just my fight; it's our fight. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate how we all lift each other up.
You said my heart. That's what I wanted to say.
Brother? Yeah, what did you enjoy most?
It's your first time.
Yeah, at least your last words here.
You can speak in Arabic.
You got away with not saying anything the entire conference.
احكي بالعربي. It's okay عبد الرحمن. احكي بالعربي. أنا بترجم. شو حسيت أنت هنا؟
واحد شعور بصراحة لا يوصف. بالذات أنا أول جاي إلي هون وأول مرة بشوف أبوي، فإنه شعور لا يوصف بصراحة.
So I can't describe my feelings. This is the first time I come here and the first time I see my dad. It's an undescribable feeling. SubhanAllah.
I just enjoyed coming and seeing all of you and meeting some new people. That's for me.
So much.
What did you enjoy most?
Everything, and if you stay home, you think just you by yourself, nobody will go, and if you all gonna people care about you like that, and everybody came to you, and you too. This make me, I have hope, and I'm very happy to see all of you. Thank you.
I think it's a great occasion. It's wonderful to see faces, make feelings with the stories that I heard and read about. And last night definitely Imam Khalid and all the poetry by Layla, everything was very close to the heart of all of us. So just pray, hopefully everybody will see the light of the darkness, end of the tunnel.
I think the only thing I could say about having these meetings is that I wish there were more meetings, more interaction, and possibly a little legal advice on the side if it can be done. Some kind of support in that way. With my son, he was at Marion, and he requested a transfer to be closer to his family. And they transferred him within 180 miles. So now I'm able to visit, which is the good part. He said as far as the differences between CMU and other penitentiary, he really doesn't see much difference. On the other hand, in the CMU he had email, and they took it away when he got, and they put him in maximum security again. So he said, well, I feel like I'm going backwards. He was hoping to be in minimum security again and have his email. So they took all that away. He has his phone calls and he has our contact visits. So, you know, you sacrifice one thing for another. But he said really in retrospect, looking at all the different things, they're basically the same as far as treatment goes, in his opinion. When he gets to go outside, he gets to see the mountains, and that means a lot to him. Yeah. And he developed diabetes at Marion because of the horrible food. So I think it's a little better where he is now. He's trying to improve his health. They are giving him medical treatment, which they weren't at Marion. So you have the good and the bad. But these meetings, I think, are very uplifting, and I hope we can have more.
I'm glad you were able to make it the new sisters here this weekend. Thank you. Okay, so now what I want to hear from you, and you don't have to hold the mic, but just one thing, if it's really up for you, because this sister, you just said that you would like more legal support and advice and just...
Advice of some sort, yeah.
So what, a few more. What else would you like to see in future conference? Yes, Lynn?
I think we need to plan a movement.
Yeah.
Action.
Because the
Okay.
law will follow the people. That, you know, you have to change people's attitudes.
We want more people, get demonstrations in front of the White House.
Yeah.
Okay, demonstrations, protests. Okay. Lynn said that the law follows the people, so the people must lead, right? Our voices must be used so that we're making our demands and then the law can respond. Okay. I saw a hand over there.
I like the healing aspect of everything, so like the nutrition or the art that stuff, like all that healing stuff is really important.
Okay, so the nutrition, wellness, and healing. Yes. Action, legal support. Anything else new? Anything else that we haven't said already that you would like?
Oh, really?
I'd like
Media? You said media? The legal support. Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. All right. So next announcement. Thank you. Thank you. So Charmaine, you're taking notes. Like NCP staff, you guys are taking notes on what we want next time. Okay. All right. So the next announcement is that, you know, the staff is always looking to improve the conference. You know, make it better and better and respond to what we want, right? So the evaluation sheets are back there with Reen.
I already passed them out, I just need them back.
Oh, you, and then, okay, so she needs them back. So either bring it back to her or drop it off on this table by the water. Okay? Anything else? No? Okay, well then let's everybody stand up.
We want to thank
Wait, I'd like to make a suggestion. It's not for future conferences, but I think we should all email Steve.
Yeah.
Steve. So I think, you know, I don't know if all of you were here last night, but he wrote us a really heartfelt letter, and I think we should show our appreciation.
There is a postcard out there, and I don't know if it's enough. Maybe we should have another one because I think it was filled. But we don't want to forget to say Jazakillahu khaira. Thank you so much, Ms. Sharmeen, and whoever was helping her put this together. This is an amazing effort. Amazing effort. And who?
Mel.
Fred, Lynn, everyone who helped in this effort. Steve, Marwa, Al-Arian, all of those great people. May Allah bless them. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thanks to each and every one of you. Thanks, Andy, for coming, Kathy, for teaching us on the behind the scenes of the prisons, and all the other speakers that are not here. So many thanks to them as well for continuing to support us and support the greater vision, right? Support our loved ones behind prison and helping us to hold them as well and think critically about what we can do to be better.